Initiatives and referendums are terms used in the United States to describe state procedures that let people gather signatures to put proposed legislation on the ballot for voters to decide. There are 26 states with statewide procedures for initiatives and referendums. Through the initiative process, voters can gather signatures in order to put a new law or constitutional amendment on the ballot. Through the referendum process, which is also known as a veto referendum or citizens' veto, residents can gather signatures to convince voters to either uphold or repeal a law that has been established. Petitions are used to create initiatives and referendums. For initiatives in the state of Arizona, the first step is to submit an application to the Secretary of State with the organization's name, officials, and other necessary information along with the proposed law's summary and language. Then the petition has to be in the correct format with a summary provided by the supporters, a title, information regarding whether the circulator is being paid, and a warning about signing an unauthorized document being legal. As for the signatures, 10% of the votes cast in the earlier election for statues for all candidates running for governor were included in the amount of signatures, and 15% for amendments. Lastly, if the state grants the petition, it should be on the ballot for the upcoming election so that voters may decide whether or not to accept it. For referendums in the state of Arizona, the application is submitted on a form that the Secretary of State provides. It must include the name of the sponsor, or in the case of an organization, the names and titles of its officers, the address, a declaration that measures will be circulated and filed, a summary of the measure's main provisions in no more than 200 words, and a request for an official serial number. Then the Secretary of State must receive the petition, which also has to include each petitioner's address, date of signing, and certification that they were eligible to vote. Every signature sheet needs to have the measure's whole title and content attached. A circulator statement, a warning regarding illegal signature, and information about whether the circulator is a volunteer or paid employee are all required. Signatures obtained in violation of these regulations are not valid. In terms of signatures, 5% of the total votes cast in the most recent general election for governor can sign it. Lastly, it should be included on the ballot for the next regular general election for citizens to reject or accept it. A similarity that the two have is their purpose. The purpose of both initiatives and referendums is to provide people the ability to actively participate in democratic legislative processes. The differences include their origins and methods. People are the first ones to start initiatives. People write the plan, petition it to have it on the ballot, and then cast their vote on it. Meanwhile, the legislator presented laws to the people for ratification, and the government initiates referendums. The pros for initiatives includes 1, direct citizen involvement. By enabling individuals to directly propose legislation without going through the formal legislative process, initiatives give citizens more influence. The public sense of empowerment and civic engagement are fostered by this direct involvement. 2, addressing popular issues. Initiatives give elective authorities a way to take care of urgent matters that they might not be giving enough attention to. Through the initiative process, citizens can gather around causes that are important to them and demand legislation. The cons are 1, complexity and lack of expertise. Many citizens may lack the sophisticated grasp of legal and policy complexities necessary to craft useful legislation. Initiatives may thus be inadequately written or neglect to consider unforeseen repercussions, which might result in laws that are ineffective or harmful. And 2, rule of the majority. Initiatives that allow the majority to impose its will without providing sufficient protections for minority voices may put minority rights and interests at danger. Initiatives may cause minority groups to be marginalized or oppressed in the lack of sufficient checks and balances. The pros for referendums include 1, direct democracy. By passing representational organizations, referendums enable individuals to directly participate in decision-making processes. This can boost public participation in politics and cultivate a feeling of direct democracy. 2, reliability. Since referendum results express the clear intention of the voters, they can be somewhat valid. This can improve how choices are viewed as being appropriate and fair, especially when they deal with controversial subjects. The cons are 1, cost and time. Referendum planning and execution may be expensive and time-consuming for governments, taking funds away from other crucial tasks. Furthermore, voting indifference or exhaustion may result from repeated referendums. And two, complexity and misunderstanding. Voters may find it challenging to completely comprehend the implications of their decision when faced with extremely complicated subjects that are presented to a referendum. Making uninformed and incorrect decisions may result from this. Initiatives and referendums are essential to the Arizona Constitution's support of the idea of direct democracy. Through initiatives, voters can directly suggest new legislation or changes to current legislation. This implies that voters may bypass the legislative process and collect signatures to place their idea directly on the ballot if they feel passionately enough about a specific issue and feel that the legislator is not addressing it sufficiently. This gives people the ability to directly influence the laws that govern them rather than depending just on elected officials. On the other hand, referendums provide the public the opportunity to weigh in on legislation that the government has approved. In the event that a law is passed and a group of citizens disagree with it, they can collect signatures and encourage a public vote on the legislation's acceptance or rejection. This ensures that legislation is subject to public approval and gives voters direct influence over the legislative process, acting as a check on the legislator's authority. Thank you.